On page 2-20, we are going to look at the AND compound inequalities. So you'll want to go back and look at the difference between the OR inequalities on 219 and the AND inequalities that we're going to do now. So the OR inequalities on 219, when you graph them, they graphed apart. Two separate inequalities, one went left and one went right, away from each other on the outside. When we have AND inequalities, they tend to graph together. So if you look at this answer right here, it looks a little bit different than what we had up above with the ORs. Even though the numbers are in the correct order, so -6 is smaller, so it's on the left, notice that's the greater than sign. On 219, we always had a less than sign with our smaller number and then a greater than sign with our bigger number. So here's what's going to happen with these. For x is greater than or equal to -6, we would have a closed circle at -6 and we would shade to the right. Normally I would shade all the way over, but I want to show you what happens here. For x is less than or equal to 1, we would have a closed circle at 1 and then we would shade to the left. So what happens is you are shading in between your two circles. So I'm going to move down before I do the interval notation. We don't want our answers to look like this. All right, so even though this is what it shows, we don't want to write our answers like that because we don't want to have the greater than sign on the left. So what we do is we put our numbers in order and then we put the x in the middle. Just like we shade in the middle, that shows that x is somewhere in the middle of those two numbers. So we put -1 and then the x and then the 1. Here's where it's a little bit tricky. This one stays the same, less than or equal to. If you notice on this one, it's pointing to the -6. So it looks like it flips around, but it really doesn't because you just flip the order that the -6 and the x were in. So this is how your answers are going to be written for your AND inequalities. You should have your smaller number on the left, your bigger number on the right, and x in the middle. Both of your signs should be pointing to the left, less than signs. Going back to interval notation, this one's easier also. You'll only have one. So you put your two numbers, it's almost like an ordered pair. -6 and 1 are your endpoints. They are both shaded, so it's two brackets. So that shows we're going from -6 to 1, including those two numbers. So you won't have any infinities or negative infinities when you have the AND inequalities. When you're solving the AND inequalities, what I am going to say is that you solve 3 times. Now that doesn't mean you actually solve the same thing 3 times. Here's what you want to do. First, I can't really block it out on here, but ignore that 2. Okay, so I'm going to highlight it. Just pretend that's not there, or that less than sign. So just concentrate on where it says x plus 4 is less than or equal to 9. So ignore the left-hand part and just think about how would I get that x by itself? Well, I would subtract 4 from here and here. So that's twice. So then whatever I do there, I also have to do the third time on the left. So you're going to do it to the middle to get rid of it, and then both the left and the right. That's what I mean by doing it 3 times. So you look at it just like you solve normally, just remember to do it on all 3 parts of your inequality. So my answer is -2 is less than or equal to x is less than 5. That's your final answer for that inequality. So we put -2 has a closed circle, 5 has an open circle, and x is between, so we shade in between the two. So our interval notation is -2, 5. -2 is closed, so it has a bracket. 5 is open, so it has a parenthesis. So for number 7, just concentrate on this part of it. Ignore the -27 and the less than sign. What would you do first for 7x minus 13? You would have to add 13. So I do that here and here, which also means I need to do it there. So 3 places. So -14 is less than 7x is less than 21. So again, just concentrate on the middle and the right. Wrong button. All right, concentrate on that. We would divide by 7. So divide by 7, divide by 7, divide by 7. That gives us -2 is less than x, which is less than 3. And that's your final answer. So we have an open circle at -2, an open circle at +3, and we shade between those two. Interval notation is -2, 3. Both of them are parentheses, so that really looks like an ordered pair. Go ahead and try number 8 and then come back and see if you did it correctly. So for number 8, again, you concentrate on the middle. I would add 4, add 4, add 4. Do everything 3 times. -12 is less than or equal to 3x, which is less than or equal to 6. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. -4 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 2. So closed circle at -4, closed circle at 2. X is in the middle, so we shade in the middle. Interval goes from -4 to 2. Both are closed, so we have 2 brackets. Number 9, first we would subtract 1. Make sure you do that 3 times. -2 is less than 2/3 x is less than or equal to 4. Remember, to get rid of a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. Instead of writing it 3 times, I'm going to do this, 3/2. Just remember we need to do it here, and here, and here. So -2 times 3/2 gives us -3 is less than x is less than or equal to 4 times 3/2 gives us 6. So open circle at -3, closed circle at 6, shade in the middle. Your interval notation goes from -3 to 6, parenthesis because it's open, bracket because it's closed. Finally, number 10. There are actually 2 things you could do here. You could go through and divide by 2 first. That actually makes it a little bit easier. Or you can distribute. So I'll show you both ways. Let's say we distribute first. -2 is less than 2x minus 12 is less than or equal to 4. Then I would add 12. 10 is less than 2x is less than or equal to 16. Divide by 2. 5 is less than x less than or equal to 8. So there's your final answer. 5 is an open circle, 8 is a closed circle. We shade in the middle. Your interval notation would have 5, 8. 5 is open, so parenthesis, 8 is closed, so a bracket. So let me show you that same thing if you divide first instead of distribute. This always works as long as your outside number on the parentheses goes into your other two numbers. So you can actually divide by 2, divide by 2, and divide by 2. That gives us -1 is less than x minus 6 is less than or equal to 2. Then we can add 6. 5 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 8. And then you would do the same graphing and interval notation up above.